Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. The Prince of the Golden Circle fell in love with a pregnant woman who, despite her disabilities, had an indomitable spirit determined to get rid of me, the little princess who guarded the circle. He insisted on severing ties with me. I, with my heart set on fulfilling the family marriage alliance, dedicated myself to helping the pregnant woman. I treated her legs and assisted her during childbirth. Yet, I never expected her to develop postpartum depression. One day, she leaped from a building with a baby in her arms, ending her life. Years later, the prince took control of the Golden Circle's resources, acquired my family's company, devoured our wealth, and sent my entire family to prison. "This is the price you pay for destroying my love," he declared. "Now we're even." But when I opened my eyes again, there he was, the prince publicly proposing to a 38-year-old disabled pregnant woman. I quietly moved to the corner of the room, clad in a fur coat and a heavy gold chain. The northeastern prince sat on her lap, tilting her chin up and commanding her, "Kiss me harder." In a private booth, Luke Anderson held a wedding ring and proposed to a woman seated in a wheelchair. Faces around the room were filled with shock and faint embarrassment as they turned to me. After all, I was Luke Anderson's fiancée. Yet here he was proposing to another woman right in front of me. It was a direct slap to my face. Someone stepped in, trying to ease the situation. "Luke, stop joking around. Emily is still here. Play if you want, but some things aren't to be taken seriously. Besides, this is a 38-year-old pregnant woman carrying her ex-husband's child. Apologize to Emily now." "Emily wouldn't take it personally," another person added. "The circle stays the circle. We all understand how things work." Everyone knew that Luke could flirt and have ambiguous relationships with other women, but it was unthinkable for him to give the position of the Anderson family matriarch to someone outside our social circle. Everyone understood this clearly. Powerful alliances guaranteed the maximum benefits for families. But Luke didn't care about this logic. He was determined to love Sophia Walters, a 38-year-old disabled woman who, despite her condition, was breathtakingly beautiful and fiercely resilient. When faced with everyone's persuasion, Luke sneered, "I'm not joking. I love Sophia, and no one can stop me." He turned his cold gaze to me. "Emily, I've told you before I don't love you. Don't force me. I'll never change my mind." His words cut through the air like ice, clearly meant to make me back down. I stood frozen, unable to respond. Sophia, however, maintained her integrity, refusing to be a third party. "Luke, stop this. Apologize to Miss Emily." Despite Luke's fiery pursuit, Sophia consistently rejected him. She said she was very clear about her place and knew about the engagement between Luke and me. She despised being seen as a homewrecker. So, in order to clear Sophia's name of being the other woman, Luke took this bold step right in front of me. In front of me, he broke off our engagement and promised Sophia his undivided commitment. "Emily, our engagement is cancelled. Do you understand? Now don't stand in the way of me marrying Sophia." Everyone turned to look at me, some even trying to comfort me. "Emily, don't take this too seriously. Luke is just causing a scene. Don't worry, no one can actually cancel your engagement," others added. "Let's leave this mess behind and go somewhere else." In families like ours, connections ran deep, and many of those present had ties to the Anderson family. No one wanted to see established contracts and partnerships fall apart because of my conflict with Luke. Someone reached out to pull me away, but I shook off their hand. Slowly, I stood up, faced Luke, and said, "Fine, I agree to cancel the engagement. From now on, the Carter family and you, Luke Anderson, have nothing to do with each other." My words left everyone in the room stunned. Luke, however, exhaled in relief. "This decision is better for both of us," he said. "Marriage is the graveyard of love. If I stayed with you, it would only lead to ruin." He wasn't wrong. A future with him would indeed lead to ruin. But being with Sophia Walters would only lead to another kind of ruin. A massive family empire like ours could never be controlled by someone as proud yet impoverished as Sophia Walters. Someone like her, who couldn't even accept being sheltered and protected in the past, lacked the resilience needed to survive the fierce struggles of the elite. She would only end up devoured entirely. I glanced at Sophia, who wore a faintly smug expression. The moment she noticed me, she straightened her posture and spoke earnestly. Miss Emily, it wasn't me who took your lover. I nodded, smiling coldly. Of course, trash like Luke Anderson belongs in the trash. You're a perfect match for him. Sophia's face turned pale, and Luke's brows furrowed tightly. Emily, he said, his voice low and disapproving. Why let love turn into hate just because you can't have me? I scoffed, my tone dripping with derision. Love. You mean your naivety or your blindness? Don't make me laugh, Luke Anderson. You're not even worthy of my love. With that, I turned away, heading toward the corner of the room. There, the man who had been silently observing the chaos, the northeastern prince who had always been ostracized by the Golden Circle, sat casually. He lifted his eyes to meet mine, his deep brooding gaze narrowing slightly under the shifting light. The enormous gold chain around his neck glinted so brightly it almost blinded me. Still, I extended my leg and straddled his lap without hesitation. Grasping his chin, I tilted his face upward and said, "James, kiss me hard." His eyes sparkled with surprise, and the room went silent as every gaze turned toward us. James hesitated, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What's wrong with you?" His thick northeastern accent filled the air, instantly breaking the tension and drawing snickers from the Golden Circle elite. But for me, his familiar voice brought an unexpected sense of safety and warmth filled me. In my past life, this man had lost his entire fortune fighting Luke Anderson to the bitter end. We had barely exchanged a word before, yet somehow, I had become the woman he loved most. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at him and asked, "Will you marry me, James?" His thin lips pressed together tightly, his handsome face revealing no discernible emotion. Then suddenly, he leaned in, capturing my lips with his. A sharp, almost violent force tugged at my mouth as his strong hands gripped my waist. The clinking sound of his gold chain echoed as he moved, and the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth before he finally let go. As he pulled back, he lingered for a moment, licking the corner of my mouth with an air of satisfaction. "Wait for me," he said, his voice low and firm. "I'll bring the betrothal gifts to your house." He glanced at the ring on Luke's finger and sneered. "That cheap thing isn't worth a dime. Just wait, I'll bring you something better." With that, James started toward the door but stopped after a few steps, turning back. He planted a quick kiss on my cheek, then pointed a finger at me. "Don't back out. Even if you do, I'll make sure to take you home whether you like it or not. You were the one who provoked me first." True to his word, James's betrothal gifts arrived in spectacular fashion, flown in from the northeast on dozens of helicopters. The Golden Circle rarely interacted with the Northeastern Circle, and no one in our social circles had ever married into theirs. I was the first to break the barrier. The scene was over the top. Crates of gold were stacked one on top of another and carried into my house. Bags of cash were hauled in one after another. Deeds to properties and keys to luxury cars were laid out on trays and presented to my grandfather. James, unable to tolerate the southern heat, finally shed his extravagant fur coat worth millions and changed into a clean tailored suit. When he entered the house, he knelt before my grandfather, his voice loud and clear. "Mr. Carter, I wish you good health. I've come to humbly ask for your blessing to marry your granddaughter. Please grant me the chance to cherish and protect her for the rest of my life." With that, James bowed 3 times, each thud resounding with sincerity and determination. I stood frozen next to my grandfather, my mind reeling with uncertainty. Grandfather, on the other hand, was completely dumbfounded, staring at everything before him in shock. His hands trembled uncontrollably, unable to steady themselves. I tried to calm him. "Grandpa, don't worry. It's just a small scene. Stay calm, stay calm." Grandfather clenched his teeth, both embarrassed and frustrated. He had plenty of reservations, but in the end, he couldn't overlook how much I had endured while with Luke Anderson, nor could he deny that James Fong had handled everything with the utmost respect and formality. Looking across the entire Golden Circle and Protectorate families, there wasn't a single suitor who had. James was the first to present such an extravagant proposal. He was also the first to knock his head on the floor repeatedly in front of my grandfather. After what felt like an eternity, grandfather finally convinced himself, "It's a bit much," he muttered. "But if you truly accept him, I can't say anything against it. Go ahead, get married, but make sure you live properly and don't bring any disgraceful nonsense into this." That evening, as grandfather's staff quietly tallied the value of the betrothal gifts, he secretly handed my household registration book to James. The next morning, before dawn, I was still half asleep when James burst into my room without warning. He scooped me up in his arms and carried me out, stuffing me into the back of a stretch limo. We were headed to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register our marriage. Dazed and disoriented, I lay in his embrace, still trying to piece together what was happening. Suddenly, I heard the sound of him swallowing nervously twice. Before I could react, his lips pressed firmly against mine, leaving me feeling like my entire body was melting into a puddle. I tried to push him away, but my strength was minimal. By the time he finally released me, I had fully awakened. His eyes were slightly red as he looked at me, his voice trembling with emotion. "Wife, I'm so happy." Anger bubbled up inside me, and I slapped him across the face. "What do you think you're doing? We're not even married yet." His handsome face tilted slightly from the force of the slap. Just as I braced for him to lose his temper, he instead cupped my hand as though it were a priceless treasure. His voice wavered. "Wife, does your hand hurt?" Force equals reaction. Such a delicate hand must be hurting now. "Next time you want to hit me, just tell me. I'll hit myself for you." To my shock, he immediately raised his hand and gave himself a hard slap across the face. "Wife, I was wrong, but I was just afraid you'd slip away. I couldn't help it. Once we're officially married, everything I do will be justified. Forgive me this time. When we get home, I'll kneel on a washboard, kneel on broken glass, whatever you want. You can whip me and I won't even make a sound." When the 3 red marriage certificates were handed to us, James cried. Tears streamed down his face as he clutched the papers tightly. "Wife, I know you've been wronged. If it weren't for Luke Anderson being blind, I would never have been this lucky. Don't worry, now that you're with me, I'll never let you suffer even a little. Whatever the Golden Circle's prince could give you, this Northeastern prince will only give you more." James, ever competitive and obsessed with one-upping others, didn't hesitate when he learned of Luke Anderson and Sophia Walters's engagement date. He scheduled our engagement on the exact same day. Luke had reserved the entire top floor of the Queen Hotel for his engagement banquet with Sophia. Not to be outdone, James rented out every floor of the Queen Hotel. At the top one for our engagement party, Luke had arranged for 18 luxury cars to escort Sophia. James, with a grand wave of his hand, had the entire fleet of luxury cars owned by the Northeastern Prince Circle shipped to the south, 108 world-class limited edition supercars. Luke Anderson had a custom-made one-of-a-kind engagement ring crafted for Sophia Walters, while James collaborated with the entire Northeastern mining industry to select for me the world's largest pink diamond to date. It was so big, it was larger than a pigeon's egg. People said James was giving me an incredible amount of face. Luke, on the other hand, found it laughable. What can a nouveau riche like him do besides throwing money around? It's tacky and cheap. Emily chose this kind of person in a fit of anger, but she'll regret it eventually. When James heard Luke's remarks, he didn't react with his usual hot-headedness. Instead, he calmly continued arranging every detail of our engagement banquet, focused on making it flawless. On the day of the engagement, Luke's fleet of 18 luxury cars ended up following behind the convoy of Northeastern Prince Circle vehicles. Luke's decorated car, which was supposed to be the centerpiece, looked completely overshadowed. The drivers hired for Luke's cars didn't dare to overtake the Northeastern convoy. Their cars simply weren't in the same league. No matter how high-end, a $1 million car couldn't compete with the bloodline dominance of $10 million limited edition supercars. What's more, the drivers knew better than to provoke 108 Northeastern princes in their vehicles. These men didn't care about minor scrapes on their cars. They only cared about showing up to support James. Eventually, the 2 groups split off to their respective venues. Midway through our engagement ceremony, torrential rain began to pour outside. Inside, through the glass windows, I glanced up and saw Luke soaked to the bone, pushing Sophia, whose makeup was completely ruined by the rain, down from the rooftop venue. With James and me as their backdrop, The disheveled couple looked especially pitiful. The few guests who attended Luke's banquet lowered their heads when faced with the overwhelming presence of the Northeastern and Golden Circle elites at our event. That's when I realized none of the Anderson family members had shown up for Luke's engagement banquet. Sure, rooftop venues were romantic, but even the heavens seemed to disapprove of their union. Was it true that flawed weddings are more memorable, just like how some people love flawed partners? The mocking whispers from the Northeastern and Protectorate circles grew louder. Yeah, some people don't just like flawed partners. They're also eager to become a stepfather at a young age, serving an older woman. Sophia's face turned beet red, and she couldn't lift her head. Luke, however, held her tightly in his arms, glaring at us with fury. "Shut your mouths," he shouted. "You're all just selfish people chasing after profit. You could never understand what true love is." Love is perhaps he was right. We didn't understand true love. For us, family interests came first. Strategic marriages were essential. By choosing Sophia over me, Luke had alienated himself from the Protectorate and Golden Circles. Without the support of my family, Luke's position in the Anderson family became precarious. His relatives' absence from his banquet said it all. In the past, the Northeastern Circle had little connection to the Golden or Protectorate circles. Many underestimated the Northeast, dismissing them with contempt. But our engagement banquet was a wake-up call. It showed everyone the Northeastern Circle's true strength. Power commands respect, and respect fosters coexistence. That's why so many of Luke's former friends from the Golden Circle were now switching sides, aligning themselves with James and me. They distanced themselves from Luke and sought favor with the Northeastern Prince and Princess circles. Giving me face meant giving James face, and giving James face meant giving the Northeastern Circle face. Our marriage was only the first step in integrating the Northeast into the Golden and Protectorate circles. Luke's engagement banquet ended hastily and in disgrace. Meanwhile, the Golden, Protectorate, and Northeastern elites partied with us late into the night. The next day, I heard that Luke had been expelled from the Anderson family by the patriarch himself. Not only that, but he had also been stripped of his CEO position. Without family backing, Luke no longer held any influence within the Anderson family. Without Emily, Luke is just like Sophia, crippled, people said mockingly. Let's see how long his true love lasts now that he has no money. Caring for a disabled fiancé while playing stepfather, he must have been blind to give up Emily for this. When these words reached my ears, I couldn't help worrying that James, with his fiery temper, might be upset. But he just laughed and said, "Why would I be upset? I know my place. I'm your backup plan." I completely understand Luke Anderson's love-struck stupidity, because I'm the same. Seriously, babe, even if you were disabled and pregnant with someone else's child, as long as you were willing, I'd still marry you and bring you home. After saying this, he pulled me onto his lap, his lips and teeth playfully tugging at mine. Between gasps for air, I asked him, "When did you start liking me?" "From the first moment I saw you," he replied. "We Northeasterners have our industries, our networks, and frankly too much money to spend. But when we tried to mix with the Protectorate and Golden Circles, we were looked down upon as nouveau riche. Still, I stuck around, enduring all the cold shoulders and disdain just so I could catch a glimpse of you every day." He admitted that he had spent years gathering the courage to confess to me. But because of my engagement to Luke, he held back. "The princesses of the Protectorate and Golden Circles already looked down on me," he said. "I didn't want to push my luck and make you despise me more than he did." Added with a smirk, "Luke Anderson is such an idiot. How could some high and mighty disabled pregnant woman ever compare to my Princess Emily? Does she have your slim waist, your soft lips?" Every word he said was straightforward and honest, filled with praise for my beauty, grace, intelligence, and kindness. His gaze lingered on me, full of longing and adoration, like a puppy begging for attention. "Babe," he murmured, his voice trembling with emotion. "I can't take it anymore. I really can't. You don't know how hard it was for me that day when you sat on my lap in the private booth. I almost couldn't hold back. When I got home, I searched everywhere for pictures of you from public events. I didn't sleep the entire night just holding your photo." His chin rested lightly on my collarbone as he spoke, his tone pitiful yet endearing. I clenched my hand into a fist, my cheeks already flushed red, but I forced myself to maintain composure. Gently, I placed my hand on the back of his neck, tracing slow circles with my fingers. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Well, this is my office. You can't possibly mean to." But his voice turned soft and playful, deliberately dropping his northeastern accent. "Please, my little princess, Princess Emily, my sweet little princess. I want to right here." My heart pounded wildly. His persistence was wearing down my resolve. I reached out to undo his collar, but before I could, he impatiently ripped his shirt open. Buttons flew through the air, some even bouncing off my face with a small sting. Just as we were reaching an intense third round, the office door burst open. James, who had been entirely engrossed, immediately grabbed a nearby jacket and covered me with it, pulling me tightly into his arms. Only my eyes peeked out from the protective cocoon he had made. Through the gap, I saw the intruder, Luke Anderson. His narrowed eyes were filled with disbelief as he stood there frozen. What was he doing here? James's expression darkened, all his earlier tenderness vanishing. "What the hell is wrong with you, Luke?" he snapped. "If you're sick, go see a doctor. Get the hell out of here." Luke held a small cake in his hand from my favorite bakery. It slipped from his fingers, splattering onto the floor in a messy heap. He didn't step back or leave. Instead, his voice turned cold and accusatory. "Emily, so it's true you and James?" Luke's disbelief morphed into laughter, bitter and sharp. "How ridiculous," he muttered. "James and I were an engaged couple, so what did it matter if we acted this way?" Yet somehow, it managed to upset Luke Anderson. James, as usual, didn't hold back. "What's your problem, Luke? Jealous because I've got such a soft and gorgeous fiancé? Too bad for you, it's too late now. Emily is mine. Why don't you take your crippled girlfriend and get the hell out of here before I lose my patience and knock you out?" James grabbed everything on the desk that wasn't nailed down and hurled it at Luke. His aim was impeccable. Every throw landed squarely. If he hadn't been holding me in his arms. RMS was unwilling to let Luke see even a hint of my disheveled state. James might have actually gone over and started a fight. Luke, ever the dignified man, would never lower himself to such crude behavior. Fighting and cursing were beneath him. Instead, he left in silent indignation. Though I could not understand why he was so upset, wasn't this the outcome he had chosen? After Luke left, James slammed the door shut behind him and returned, still brimming with anger. He vented his frustration while tears welled in his eyes. "Can you believe that bastard just barged in here like that? Who does he think he is? Even I knocked before entering your office. I swear I could just cut that guy into pieces." His frustration was endearing, though his tears felt exaggerated, like a performance meant to make me go easy on him afterward. I was utterly exhausted. James didn't mind the trouble of bathing me and wiping me clean from all the stickiness left behind. I felt drained but couldn't fall asleep. Casually I asked, "Why did Luke even come here?" James, ever attentive, immediately looked into Luke's recent situation. It turned out things weren't going well for him and Sophia Walters. He had come to see me hoping for a reconciliation. Luke had been kicked out of the Golden Circle and disowned by his family. The Andersons had cut him off financially, leaving him and Sophia renting a cramped one-bedroom apartment for $1,000 a month. Sophia, due to her disability, had always been distant and unwilling to engage intimately with her ex-husband. After becoming pregnant, she refused to let him touch her at all, which had led to their divorce. Now Luke found himself in the same situation, unable to tolerate her aloofness. Back when Luke was surrounded by young, beautiful women, Sophia's current state, a 38-year-old heavily pregnant woman, hardly appealed to him. With no money and no quality of life, Luke was beginning to regret his engagement to Sophia and wanted to come crawling back to me. James relayed all this information with an obvious look of disdain. I tried to console him, jokingly calling Luke ugly, short, stupid, and completely unworthy of comparison. "Don't be mad," I said softly. James shook his head and buried his face into my chest. "He's not stupid," he murmured. "At least he knows to regret his choices and come back to you." It was then that my phone rang. Luke was calling. I was about to decline the call, but James quickly reached out and answered it for me. Luke's voice came through the line, steady but laced with arrogance. Emily, I'm willing to forgive you for being with James, for that vulgar brute, but you will never surpass Sophia in my heart. That said, I'm prepared to cancel my engagement to Sophia and marry you instead. This way, our families can maintain the alliance. However, you must agree to treat Sophia's legs and find the best maternity hospital for her. Even though her child isn't mine, it will still inherit the Anderson and Carter family wealth. I almost burst out laughing at the absurdity. James, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes, his expression growing dangerously serious. That guy, James muttered darkly, is absolutely disgusting. I advise you to tell him clearly and as soon as possible. Luke Anderson said over the phone, stay away from those northeastern circles. I don't like you carrying that crude northeastern flavor. If you have no objections, arrange for someone to send me a house and a car to Wong Apartments later. I need to accompany Sophia to her prenatal checkup, and public transportation is very, very inconvenient. The audacity in his demands was baffling. Every word he said sounded ridiculous to me. I asked Luke, what exactly do I gain from marrying you? I can't have your heart or your money, yet I'm supposed to raise a child for you with both the Carter and Anderson family fortunes being used for a kid who doesn't even share your bloodline? What do I get out of this? He let out a cold laugh. You have me. That's enough. You love me, don't you? His tone grew more resolute. Emily, I know you love me. You've loved me since the day we met, always seeing me as your only anchor. I'm offering you the title of Mrs. Anderson. You'll have the privilege of looking at me from afar, even if I won't touch you. I'm not as casual as James. I'm loyal to Sophia, so be satisfied, Emily. Otherwise, you'll end up with nothing. Amazing. I couldn't believe someone could be so shameless. It wasn't worth wasting another word on him, so I hung up the phone. I turned to James. Didn't you say you wanted to deal with Luke Anderson? Go ahead, I won't stop you. James had long been itching to put Luke in his place. I had held him back for a while, not wanting things to escalate into a messy feud between the Carter and Anderson families or for James, who had just gained a foothold in these circles, to stir up unnecessary trouble. James had always suspected I was still holding on to old feelings for Luke. Those old ties between influential names were nothing but burdens. When James heard my words, his face lit up with satisfaction. Are you serious? I could tell he misunderstood my meaning, but I didn't bother explaining. Go for it. Otherwise, if he manages to stage a comeback, I might actually reconcile with him. I said sarcastically, deliberately provoking him. James took my words seriously. His expression darkened, his jaw clenched, and he growled, if he dares covet my wife, I'll make sure he's finished. James's methods were straightforward and brutal. After hearing Luke's demands, he actually sent him a house and a car. However, the house came with a daily rent of $2, and the luxury car cost $3 a day. Luke and Sophia enjoyed the lavish lifestyle for a month, running up a tab of $150. On top of that, they had a housekeeper who cost $10 a month and a chef preparing nutritious meals at $300 per month. After a month of living comfortably, predators started showing up demanding payment. Luke had no money and tried calling me, but I had already blocked his number. No one answered. Please help, and eventually the police got involved. He was hauled off to jail. When James reported his success to me, his arms were wrapped possessively around my waist. Praise me, babe, he said with a playful grin. I smirked and said, it's just 3 months in jail. He'll be on the dead or blacklist. Sure, but the Anderson family can easily pay off the debt with a wave of their hand. James kissed my earlobe and whispered, don't worry, the real fun is just getting started. The fun James referred to involved Sophia Walters. Unable to bear living on her own and under someone's influence, she made her way to the Anderson family estate on Mr. Anderson's 80th birthday. Sophia Walters brazenly appeared in front of the media, sobbing uncontrollably. She lamented her tragic fate and her lack of options, pleading with the Anderson patriarch to take her in out of the goodness of his heart. Her tearful performance, amplified by her portrayal as a vulnerable and disadvantaged individual, was calculated. She passionately declared that her love with Luke Anderson was pure and true, that Luke was a kind-hearted man who sought nothing but a genuine marriage untainted by greed. What's so wrong with wanting a pure marriage? She cried. The ones truly at fault are the powerful families like yours. You already have most of the world's wealth in your hands. Why do you still want more? Without money, yes, life is hard, but having so much money without any goodness or beauty is far worse. How can greedy capitalists like you bear the responsibility of serving the nation and its people? Her words struck a chord with the media and the working class in a world already filled with resentment toward the wealthy elite. Her speech resonated with the public's simmering disdain for capitalism. However, Sophia had no right to condemn the Anderson family for their pursuit of profit. After all, it was their wealth that had sustained her up to this point. Her welfare came from a foundation created by the very family she criticized. The surgery for her paralysis was funded by that same foundation. Everything she currently ate and used came from the Anderson family. Sophia, who couldn't handle an ordinary life like the working class, was now hypocritically criticizing the wealthy elite for prioritizing their interests. But the media, ever hungry for sensationalism, ran with her narrative, creating headlines that painted the Andersons as heartless capitalists. The fallout was immediate. Anderson Group's stock prices plummeted, hitting the lowest point. Sophia naively believed her actions would make the Anderson patriarch reflect on his so-called mistakes and recognize Luke as the only suitable heir due to his supposed kindness. But she was gravely mistaken. A century-old family like the Andersons would never allow a woman like Sophia to cause them such losses without retaliation. In front of the cameras, Mr. Anderson publicly welcomed Sophia into the family, but behind the scenes, things were different. In the Anderson household, Sophia went into premature labor and delivered a stillborn. On the second day, she was scalded by boiling water, leaving her face disfigured. On the third day, she was caught red-handed stealing valuables. The amount was significant enough to warrant immediate police intervention, and she was sent to jail that very night. Was it you? I asked James. Did you plant the idea in her head to go cause trouble for the Andersons? James smirked and clicked his tongue. You're as sharp as ever, my wife. Truly brilliant. He leaned in for a kiss. And what's next? I pressed. Do you have more plans? He smiled slightly. There's no need for me to do anything now. Let's wait for Luke Anderson to get out of jail and see what he decides to do next. James was right. There was no need for further action. Luke had already blocked all his own paths. When Luke was finally released, he managed to pull Sophia out of prison as well. Had he been willing to live quietly, perhaps they could have carried on together. But Luke couldn't help himself. His arrogance and delusions of grandeur refused to let him accept defeat. On the day of my wedding to James, Luke had the audacity to crash the ceremony. Sophia was sitting among the guests. Yet Luke shamelessly snatched the officiant's microphone and stood before me, making a public declaration of love. I'm sorry, Emily, he began. Only now do I truly understand my feelings. The one I've loved all along has always been you, so beautiful, elegant, and radiant. No woman can compare to you. All others pale in your presence. I was blind to have chosen someone so utterly worthless. Please give me another chance, Emily. Marry me. He even pulled out the same engagement ring he had once used to propose to Sophia, and knelt on one knee before me. The entire venue fell into an eerie silence. I could feel the collective disgust radiating from everyone present. It was as if Luke's actions had blocked their throats, leaving them choking on the bile of revulsion. Luke Anderson's shameless remarks continued as he stood before everyone. Emily, I don't care about what happened between you and James. I swear I'll treat you even better than he ever could. Marry me. You can wash my clothes, cook my meals, clean the house, and have my children. I'll work hard to start a business and give you a happy life. Trust me, I'll make a comeback and provide you with the best life possible. His words were so earnest, his tone so sincere, but I couldn't hold it in. Right there in front of everyone, I vomited all over Luke's cheap suit. James, I feel sick, I said, wiping my mouth. Please get rid of this nauseating thing. And while you're at it, throw out that pitiful woman sitting down there like I owe her something. Despite the disruption, our wedding proceeded without a hitch. The Northeastern Prince Circle, feeling that Luke deserved a good beating, didn't hold back as they dragged him out. Each one gave him a kick for good measure. Sophia Walters, unable to move because of her wheelchair. As broken, Sophia was desperate to confront Luke about his actions at the wedding. She crawled over to the battered and bruised Luke, barely clinging to consciousness. "Luke," she whispered. "What you said to Emily earlier, how much of it was true? Do you regret being with me?" Luke regretted everything. He had regretted it since the day the Anderson family disowned him, but his pride wouldn't let him admit he'd chosen the wrong person. Instead, he maintained his haughty demeanor, spitting venomous words at her every chance he got. "Tell me, Luke," Sophia persisted. "Wasn't I your true love? How could you claim to love Emily now?" Luke sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "I must have been blind to fall for a crippled, old, washed-up woman like you instead of choosing Emily, a princess of the protectorate." The words hit Sophia like a slap to the face. Her eyes widened and her hands trembled as Luke unleashed his cruelty. "Look at yourself," he continued. "You're pathetic. Getting into bed with you is like lying next to a dead fish. You can't even move. What gives you the right to compare yourself to Emily? You act so self-righteous. Yet here you are begging for my love. It's disgusting. Your paralyzed legs, your stretch marks, and those age spots on your face. None of it is worth showing in public. If I were you, I'd have ended it long ago. What's the point of living to drag others down with you?" Luke had lost everything, even his last shred of dignity. He knew exactly how to cut Sophia down. Every word a dagger stabbing into her heart. Sophia, ever prideful, didn't react outwardly. Even as Luke tore her apart with his words, she kept her composure. She crawled silently back into the banquet hall, found a small knife, and returned outside. As Luke sat, consumed by his own bitterness, Sophia drove the knife straight into his heart. Inside the banquet hall, laughter and celebration continued. Outside, blood pooled on the ground, ending 2 lives in an instant. When word of Luke Anderson's death reached the Anderson family, their only response was to discard his body in the public cemetery. No one knew who to inform about Sophia's death, so her remains were sent to the same place. The ashes of both were left to scatter in the wind, unclaimed by anyone. James, unwilling to let me feel burdened by the dark news, kept everything from me. Instead, after the wedding, he took me to his family home in the Northeast. He took me to the morning market where meat buns the size of my fist and freshly fried pancakes cost just $1 each. He brought me skiing, where the vast white landscape made it feel like we were in a fairy tale. He took me hunting in the wild, though the animals we hunted were all farm-raised. Sitting by a fire roasting skewers, it was a completely different kind of life experience. For 6 months, we lived like this. I followed him everywhere, eating, drinking, and indulging. The more we enjoyed ourselves, the more weight I gained. At some point, I decided I couldn't keep gaining weight and started dieting, meaning to lose some of it, but James wouldn't let me. Every day he made sure I had delicious food and drinks, pampering me like a queen. It wasn't until the moment my water broke that I realized I was pregnant. When our daughter was born, James looked at me, his face filled with pure joy. "I didn't tell you," he admitted with a grin. "If you knew you were pregnant, you wouldn't have had as much fun. I wanted you to be happy every day, just following me around and enjoying life." He held our baby girl carefully, his eyes brimming with pride. "She's beautiful," he said. "She looks just like you." Then he turned to me and added, "Wife, I'm so happy. This doesn't feel real. Am I dreaming?" He pinched his own cheek hard enough to leave it red, and tears of happiness finally streamed down his face. I couldn't help but laugh at him. "Come on, aren't you supposed to be the great Northeastern prince? Can you stop being so dramatic? You cry more than I do." He wiped his tears and said, "You don't understand. Before this day, I cried every damn day, loving you but not being able to have you. Do you know how much that hurt? My heart was practically shattered. These are happy tears now. Can't you let me cry a little longer?" Then he hugged me tightly. "I swear, wife, I love you so much it's driving me crazy."